Okay, so today's parenting questions, let's get straight to them. My son seems to argue with everything I say lately. Is he becoming disrespectful or is this a normal stage of development? I don't have an age here, but I definitely think that, or know, that it is part of development. So, questioning parents, it's usually like a sign of developing independence. Um, and especially, it's done at different stages, but because you'll see that your children will start asking a lot of questions from the age of 4 onwards, because that's the first time that they really feel like they're separate beings from their moms. And then they're kind of developing their own personality and they're becoming a little bit independent. So they ask a lot of questions. They tend to be very direct. They say things as they are. And a lot of parents seem to think that that is disrespect, but it's not disrespect. It's just that their brain has shifted into a different development stage. And so they children become really descriptive. For instance, like, they don't know yet how to be completely polite or to be sensitive. They'll say something like, look at that boy over there, he's really fat. Or, and for them, it's they just using that as a descriptive. They're not trying to be rude, they're not trying to be unkind. It's just they describing what they see. So when they start arguing, it's because they're already starting to, as I said, become their own little version of themselves. They're finally separated from their mum in a way, um, and it's a natural part of life. And then you'll see it starts happening again as teenagers. So I don't know how old your son is, but when they become teenagers, that's also a natural stage. It's a stage where they are rebelling, and rebelling is completely normal. And often what happens is that parents become like really, really scared when children start rebelling, because they no longer are able to protect them that they want to. They no longer are able to control them. Um, because we're scared, right? We're scared that our kids are going to get up to all sorts of nonsense and they're going to get hurt and they're going to get into trouble. And so we become more controlling with them as they get older because we want to keep them safe. So being the parent of a teenager is like really scary. But what happens is that the more we're trying to hold them safe, the more they're going to rebel because they need to untie the apron strings. And it's an absolute natural stage of development. And what you can do if your child is old enough, if they are a teenager and this is what is happening, is to really have conversations with them and say, you know what, your rational brain is not going to kick in until you're 24 and 25. And sometimes you're going to get annoyed with me about things that I say or when I'm trying to protect you. And it's just because you can't see things the way I see them right now. And with the argumentative stuff, let them argue a little bit because it's good for them to become independent, but always teach them how to do that with respect, because there's no, um, you know, allowing your child or to be is such a good thing, but you also want to teach them respect. And because everybody has different opinions, everybody has different ways of seeing things. And I think nobody likes to know it all, right? So when children start arguing and there isn't that understanding of, well, okay, well, you see it this way and I see it that way, and they believe that they know best, or you believe that you know best, there's not that form of respect on different opinions and different perceptions, because we can all watch TV, or we can all see an accident, or we can all see a poster, but we all interpret what we're seeing in a different way. And I think so if your child understands that from a really young age, that there are different opinions and that's okay. But I think arguing in a way is good because it helps them to become independent, and it means that they are starting to see the world differently and view the world differently to the way you are. And interesting fun fact, sometimes we can actually learn from our children because they see it so differently, depending what his age is and your age is. But I think it's always really healthy to see different perspectives from people, no matter what the age is. But make sure that you teach respect with that, and so that he doesn't turn into somebody who thinks he knows it all and disregards and disrespects other people's opinions and what they have to say. Okay. Um, okay. This one is my son always blames someone else when something goes wrong, even when I know it was his mistake. Why can't he take responsibility? So, blame, it's often like a shield against shame. And shame is a terrible thing. It's the worst feeling that any of us can ever feel. There was Dr. Hawkins did like a graph or like a ladder of how you feel with each feeling and how it feels in your body and the energy that is associated with that emotion. And shame is the lowest energy, and it's the lowest feeling that you can feel. It's horrible, it's awful. And I think so a lot of people will avoid feeling shame because they think I'm gonna, owning up to this is gonna make me feel shame, and so they avoid it. And so for them, it's easier to blame somebody else so that they can avoid shame. And this doesn't just happen with children, it happens with adults as well, where people try and avoid shame. And I think it takes vulnerability to admit shame or to express shame because it makes you feel so dreadful about yourself. You're putting yourself into like a real vulnerable situation. And so your child or even an adult will admit their mistakes when they feel emotionally safe. And to feel emotionally safe, it means that you allow your child to express their emotions in whatever shape or form that they express it, and that you don't judge them for it or criticize them or condemn them for it. So practice showing them that it's okay to share their emotions. Don't judge it, don't criticize it, just listen. You can say, I can see you feeling embarrassed about this, and that's okay. We all feel embarrassed. I can see you feeling disappointed. Don't automatically assume that you know what the feeling is, but if you can identify it and help them to identify it, like saying, I can see that. And you can also say, it looks like you feel disappointed. Is that correct? And they might go, no, actually, I feel embarrassed. And you can say, but it's okay to feel that way because all feelings are normal. We all have feelings, we all feel them. And so when you do that, they're going to start learning that it's safe for them to express their emotions with you, that you are a safe place. And then they will come out with shame. They will talk about shame, or they'll talk about blame, or you can even bring it up at a later stage and say to them in a calm manner, remember when you blamed so and so? Was that actually true? And they might go, no, actually, it was my fault. But they really need to feel safe with their emotions with you. And only that way are they going to admit that it was their fault. And also remember that you've got to remind them that no matter what they did, if it's something that they did do, and you're never going to stop loving them. It doesn't matter because it's better to talk about it than to hide it. But children want to know that they are safe, that they're accepted, and that they're loved. And if you keep reinforcing that over and over again, your child will start trusting you with all their emotions, and they'll start openly saying, oh, sorry, that was my fault, or, I put my hands up, that was me that caused that. Okay. Right, the next one. My child gets overwhelmed when we have visitors or go to busy places. They become grumpy, emotional, or withdrawn afterwards. What's happening? Now, this is something I can relate to very well as a very highly sensitive person myself with sensory processing disorder as well. So basically, children and adults, their nervous systems become really dysregulated because they become overloaded. So with sensitive human beings, so I'm not just going to say children, I'm going to say human beings, and even sometimes with dogs that are anxious, is that when you go to like a really busy place, there's a lot of people there, and obviously your emotions are energy. So you're picking up on the emotions, you're picking up on the energy of that. So it feels like you could be walking around and you absorbing all that energy. It's almost like there's a filter missing. So with people who aren't highly sensitive, it's like they've got this filter, whereas with people that who are highly sensitive, their filter is like a sponge and it just absorbs absolutely everything. And so whatever they're feeling and whatever other people are emitting in their energy fields or in their emotions, that person is absorbing, absorbing, absorbing. And then the other things that happen is with sensitive people is that their senses get overloaded. So when you go to a busy place, it's not just the people that create sensory overload, but it's the music, it's the lighting, it's the noise. And so the nervous system becomes very, very, very overloaded with all of that. So there's a lot going on and it's very uncomfortable. Um, so I'm going to give you a few tips. Now, my nephew also used to struggle with this immensely as a child. So when they were traveling, or if he was on a train, or if he was in a group, or they knew they were going in an outing, he always had like a little headset and he had some music that he could listen to. And so my brother used to record music on there for him that was very relaxing. And so he could wear that. And even being in a restaurant, or, he would sit listening to this, or he had something to distract him. He could, color in or draw or scribble or doodle or whatever, because the minute you are engaging the brain in creative activities, music, even though you're not creating it, but it's that right side of the brain that soothes the body and the nervous system. So whether it's music or whether it's coloring in or drawing or playing with something. I remember even saying to a teacher once, she didn't know how to deal with this child that was always overwhelmed and very fidgety and very kinesthetic. And I said, you know what, just give him a box of paper clips and allow him to sit and join the paper clips while you're teaching, because that's going to help his nervous system calm down and he's actually going to learn a lot more. So your child is feeling very overwhelmed. So if you can, depending on where you go, like if it's a restaurant, you can use all those examples I gave you, or if it's in a mall or something like that, give them a headset that they can wear. They can listen to some soothing music that they like. And then also when they get home, just give them some space to decompress. Um, Quiet time. You'll hear some children, gosh, I remember my grandson when he was about 3 or 4, he would say, Grammy, can you just be quiet? I need some quiet time. And I'd go, okay. So, they just need a little bit of decompression time on their own in their bedroom to recharge. And you'll even find that with adults as well. You'll see a lot of people think that extroverts are the loud people and the confident people. They're not. I'm an introvert. I'm not an extrovert, yet I'll speak on stages with thousands of people and I'll put myself out there, but I'm an introvert, which means that I recharge my batteries when I'm on my own and decompressing. I don't like crowds. There's so many children that I've worked with. They don't like crowds. So you need that time to just be alone and just allow them to do that. Don't judge it. Don't criticize it. It just is what it is. The grumpiness is just, I just want to make sure that I'm covering everything in your question. The grumpiness is just because they're trying to express the overload and they don't really know how to do it. So teach your child to say, um, or ask them about how they feel when they go out. Ask them how it feels in their body, because sometimes they can express it and say, I just feel it's too much for me, it's too noisy. And then you can say to them, well, what will help? Because when they then become grumpy, then it's because they're feeling overwhelmed or overstimulated. Um, you also said they get emotional or withdrawn afterwards. That's fine. Allow them that time out. Run them a bath or tell them to go have a bath, have a shower. Water is a wonderful, wonderful tool to use to decompress and get rid of all that extra emotion and stuff. Some children like jumping on a trampoline. Some of them want to go and sit outside in the garden, but just give them the space. That's all it is. It's not personal. It just means that their nervous system and their senses are wired differently to everybody else's. Okay, so the next and last question for today. My daughter gets really upset when people don't follow the rules, even in games. Why does it bother her so much? Okay, So for many children, remember I said that children are all about safety. And so safety and predictability are kind of the same thing. So um, children who are very focused on they need things to be safe means that they need things to be predictable. And so when you're not following the rules, they can't predict the outcome. And so, and you find this even more so with children who are on the spectrum. They very much, their brains are wired for it's got to be rules. You've got to follow the rules. You've got to do it this way. You've got to walk straight. You've got to color within the lines. So if your child is extreme about rules, look out for other aspects as well. And they very well might be on the spectrum. And fun fact about being on the spectrum, they say that about apparently 80% of us are on the spectrum. I'm on the spectrum. So it's not a bad thing at all. It just helps you to understand, and you don't have to medicate your children if your children are on the spectrum. Just understanding that their brains are wired differently. So for her, him, sorry, it doesn't say, it just says yes, my daughter. Um, so for her, she just needs to know that there's predictability. You'll probably find with her as well that she doesn't like change. She needs to know where she's going, what she's doing. And this is all about teaching herself how to feel safe. So she's setting her own boundaries within her brain about, if it fits into this box, I can predict it. If people follow the rules, I can predict. And it's almost like they're predicting their own emotions and their own way they would respond to it. So um, for instance, she might even predicting, well, if they are following the rules and I still lose, then I can deal with my own disappointment, if that makes sense. So it's just something that some children do because they want to feel safe. They want to be able to predict life. And on that note, to help your child to feel safe, especially when they're little, especially from the age of 2, 3, because the first couple of years it's hard to predict what happens with children, and a lot of people allow let their children co-sleep with them, which is fantastic, and they just let children kind of manage their own agenda in terms of separating from the parents and being ready for their own room and their own bed and all of that. I love that whole idea because it's baby led. Um, and not led by the parent. But when they get to that age of maybe 2 years old, create a routine because routines make children feel safe. And a lot of parents who felt restricted with their routines because maybe it was a little bit heavy-handed when they grew up tend to go, you know what, I'm never going to put my child in a routine and I'm just going to let them do whatever they want to when they want to. But it makes children feel unsafe because they need to know that when life becomes unpredictable, that you're going to step in. So when they call it laissez-faire or something, this parenting style. So if you just allow your child to do what they want, when they want, eat what they want, go to sleep when they want, all of that, it makes them feel unsafe because when is the parent going to step in? Because then they almost have to parent themselves in a way. So when you give them a routine, it means they can predict it. So routine can look like at 6 o'clock they have dinner, 6:30 is bath time, 7 o'clock is bedtime, or story time, or chatting, or coloring in, or whatever, and 7:30 is lights out. And I can tell you something that when your child has that kind of routine, it makes them feel incredibly safe. And it also teaches them how to trust you, how to rely on you, how to depend on you, because if they don't learn how to do that and they're parenting themselves and they don't have a routine, they're all over the show. Um, and they get very anxious and they get very over controlling. Um, and their nervous systems get really dysregulated. And you don't ever want anybody's nervous system to be dysregulated because it's very uncomfortable. It's absolutely awful. So what I would do with her is just to explain that some people don't always follow the rules, and that we can't always force other people to follow the rules. But what you can do is maybe at the beginning of the game, she can discuss the rules with her friends or with the family, and everybody can agree to them, or you can have a version of the rules, which is always great because it's like now people are cooperating and everybody gets that buy-in. Um, but it's going to be okay if she's in a situation where she can't control that. She's still going to be safe. It's okay. Um, because we also want to teach children how to be resilient. So try and work with her, if it's at home and if it's with her friends, you can give her those little options that she can set the boundaries and she can set the rules and get the buy-in. But sometimes there are going to be people that are not going to follow the rules, and that she just needs to accept that even if they don't follow the rules, she's still going to be okay. She's still going to be safe. It's not really going to affect her. Um, she doesn't have to fix that. She doesn't have to be responsible for that. Right. So that was the last question for today. Thank you for tuning in. And I will see you again on the next time. And remember, if you've got a burning question about your child's behavior or their emotions, just follow the link below and you can submit your question. You can also submit questions about your spouse or your partner or yourself when it comes to any sort of emotions and things that you're struggling with at the moment. Do take care and remember to check out my free emotional intelligence course as well. The link is below, which is going to help you to understand your child's emotions and behaviors as well as your own. Take care. See you next time. Bye.